Alright everyone, it is time that we sat down and had a little chat about how I rate books. Hello everyone and welcome to A Fictional Escapist. Welcome back if it is not your first time here. Today this is just going to be a short discussion video about how I rate books personally. Rating books and reading books are so subjective to the person that is reading them that I thought it'd be a good idea to sort of let you know where I stand on rating books. I know a lot of people like star ratings, I know a lot of people don't like star ratings. I use them for things like Goodreads and Storygraph, and I'll put those links down below if you're interested in my profiles. I don't necessarily use them for things like Instagram anymore. I think I started doing it when I started my Bookstagram account, but I think sometimes those star ratings can take away from what you like or don't like about a book, particularly if people are only looking at that star rating and drawing their own conclusion on their own rating system. So I basically want to talk to you today about what the star ratings mean for me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What do they mean in terms of my own sort of rating system and how I actually rate books. So what I tend to do is I have a series of 5 points that I will score against, and they are plot, which for me includes things like the magic system and the world building, the overall plot, the overall feeling of the book. I'm very much a plot and world building driven reader over characters, so that's the biggest score for me. The second thing that I will score against is characters. If you can get me to care about a character, that's pretty good, because I'm not a touchy-feely person at all. I have to like the characters to care about what's happening about them, but it is not the be-all and end-all for me. I know a lot of people on this platform are definitely character-driven readers, so they need to care about the characters to care about anything else. But if you've got a great world and a great plot, I want to know what that world feels like. I want to know what that world smells like. I want to be able to put myself in that world as my own character, and that's what I'm interested in. I also need to be pushed along in the plot, because if the plot sort of wavers, I'm going to lose interest. Even if your characters are great, I'm just going to lose interest. So that's the second point, is characters, and that's probably my lowest scoring area. The third thing that I will rank against is pacing. Does the book flow? Am I continually wanting to turn the page? Now, that doesn't mean whether it's a fast-paced book or it's a slow-paced book. I prefer slower-paced books that build. And that may have something to do with loving plot and loving world building. Is I'd rather read 4 or 5 pages about the scenery that we're in than I care about characters necessarily doing stuff. I want to know why they're doing stuff. So pacing is super important to me, but I tend to go for slower to medium paced books personally. The fourth score is prose. So how does your writing sit with me, or how does an author's writing sit with me? Now, this will be basically if I think it is congruous to the story, and does it fit the tone of the particular story that's being told, because sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it's like, it was alright, but it could have been tweaked in a certain way. And the last thing I score against is overall enjoyment, so just how I enjoy the tale. Now, sometimes my enjoyment level is much higher than what I rate other things, so then it comes to an average of 5 points, which is how I get my star ratings. If you're looking at Goodreads star ratings versus Storygraph star ratings, I like Storygraph in terms of reviewing better, just because you can give the quarter stars. With Goodreads, you don't have the opportunity to give half or quarter stars, so if I have a 3.5 star book, I would generally push that up to a 4 star, just so that the author isn't disadvantaged by a 3-star rating when I actually thought it was more than a 3-star book. Now, I don't go by what Goodreads says is a good book, so I think 2 stars is I liked it, but if I see a 2-star rating, I'm like, okay, well, they finished it, probably. I know that some people just rate books after reading a couple of pages, which is dumb. Don't do that. It hurts the author, particularly if you didn't like it. You didn't give them a chance. I digress. We'll go through how I personally rank them. So 1 star, didn't like it. I will generally not have any 1 stars on Goodreads or Storygraph, because if it's 1 star, I'm probably putting that book down, and I don't rate DNFs. I don't think that's fair, personally, unless you've read 70% of a book to give it a rating, but I personally just don't rate or review DNF books. I just remove them as something that I haven't read and only rank completed books. I think I only have 1 book in there which I rated 1.5, and that was Silkfire by Zabay Allure. And because it was a NetGalley arc, I finished it, but I would have DNF'd it had it not been a NetGalley arc. The second is 2 stars. Now, 2 stars for me means that you've got something going for it, but it doesn't work for me in the slightest. But if I finished it to give it a 2-star, then, you know, I obviously thought it was worth finishing, but things just didn't sort of work for me. 3 stars is a decent rating in my eyes. It is better than the middle of the road. It is a book that I had a decent time with, but I'm probably not going to pick it up again, and I'm probably not going to remember a whole lot about it. A lot of novellas and short stories will sit in the 3-star range for me, just because they're so short, and I'm someone who likes those books with build-up and description, and those big chunky tomes if they call for it. So the shorter stories leave me wanting a little bit more, but hey, sometimes they're a lot of fun, and 3-star books can be a lot of fun. Then we have 4 stars. 4 stars is honestly where I will rate a lot of my books. This is a great book. It had a lot of things going for it. I really enjoyed it. I probably cared about your characters if I gave it a 4-star rating, but there's just something that hasn't knocked my socks off. And it could be me just being super picky, or it could just be that, hey, I really enjoy that book because I really enjoyed those type of stories, but it's nothing new, so it didn't sort of wow me. And then you've got the 5 stars, which is you have knocked my socks off, and I'm talking sock flying across the room. I could not put it down. I will not shut up about this book, and I'll probably be thinking about it for the rest of my life. A 5-star book is likely to get a reread, and I do not reread books. There are very few books that I want to reread. There are very few books that I can't remember a whole lot about. So if you've got a 5-star book, it's absolutely insane. My first 5-star book of the year was Jurassic Park, and I'm still thinking about Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. It was amazing, and I am scared to pick up The Lost World, even though it was on my TBR for like February, and I didn't because I don't want to ruin how good Jurassic Park was. So, I don't know. You will see, if you follow my Goodreads at all, a lot of my ratings will sit between a 3 and a 4. That tends to be where a lot of the things that I read sit in between. Like I said, a 3 is not a bad book. I get a lot of 3.5s where it doesn't quite get to that was a really great book that I'm going to think about forever, but it's better than, that was a fun read. I do have a lot of 3.5s and a lot of 4-star books, which is generally where I sit. I'm just looking at my ratings now from this year, and they mostly sit between the 3 and the 4-star mark. Anyway, that's how I rate my books. Hopefully this clarifies, my reviews in the future, because I am going to have more reviews coming out. I'm reading more at the moment than I have previously, and a lot of those are indie books, and a lot of those are NetGalley arcs, which I do want to put dedicated reviews for all of the indie books and all of the NetGalley arcs that I read, as long as they're full-length novels. So hopefully that just gives you a bit of insight. If you like this content, do one of these. If you want to see more of it, click on my face, subscribe at your will, and I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.